Hi guys. This week we're going to learn about ethos, pathos, and logos. Some of you might be really familiar with those and like, oh yeah, I know all about that. And some of you might be like, why are you talking Greek at me? Because that's what it seems like. But these are just three appeals that everyone uses all the time in order to communicate, especially when we want to have effective communication. And the key is if you can do all three of the appeals within one message or one speech, paper, whatever it may be. Okay, so let's break it down. The first thing is ethos. And a lot of people think of ethics when they think about that. And it does have to do with that a little bit. But what ethos does is it ties credibility to whatever your message is, whatever you're trying to relate to. So whether that's you're using someone else and their credibility to tie your ideas to, or you have your own established reputation so you can build into your own ethos. So it's hard for us, as 11th grade students, you don't kind of have that built-in ethos where, if I talk about Barack Obama, right, you're already going to think he's credible. You're already going to trust him a little bit because he has a built-in ethos. He has this built-in reputation. So some people already have that and they can rely on themselves to build credibility. But a lot of times what we have to do, or other people as they're building that reputation, is we need to tie our ideas to someone else, that makes us credible, and that establishes that credibility. So that's really what ethos is all about, is how can I establish credibility as a speaker, or how do I know the things that I'm listening to or reading are credible? What do they do that establish themselves as credible? And that's how you kind of build ethos in. Okay. The next is pathos, and it has to do with appealing to emotions. And this is the most powerful of all the appeals, because once you can get someone emotionally invested in something, then you have them, right? If you can get someone to care, then it's hugely effective and is the hardest one of the three to use, because what I care about and what you care about are totally different, right? We have different things that make us happy, or different things that get us really mad and riled up. And all of Pathos is doing is trying to tie into those emotions, right? How can we get an emotional response? So how, as communicators, can we get our audience to care? And then how, as we're, viewing something, what makes us care about things. So again, it's the most effective, but it's the hardest to use, because a lot of times people can feel manipulated, and you don't want to do that. So there's kind of this fine line between like another sob story that people just kind of get turned off, right? It's too much emotion. They don't want to deal with it anymore. And that it's something they'll actually care about, right? So you have to find that middle ground, something they'll care about, but not too far that you're going too much. So a lot of times I like to think about those Humane Society commercials, and I don't even know if you guys know what those are anymore, but it already has the sad dog, right? And the dog looks sad, and somehow they even get it to like cry a little bit, and then even more than that, like they cue that sad Sarah McLachlan music, and it's just like, ugh, like it's too much. Instead of me connecting emotionally and being like, oh yeah, I want to donate to the Humane Society, instead I'm like, oh, I want to change, I want to look away, I don't want to do it because I feel like they're trying too hard to play with my emotions. So it's a really hard thing to do, but again, it's really effective. Okay, so that's when we're trying to make some emotional appeal, an emotional response, is pathos. And then finally we have logos, and logos is usually easy for students to remember because it has to do with logic, and logos sound the same, right? So anytime that we're using actual facts, common sense, reasoning, in order to appeal to our audience, or we see that in what we're looking at, then that's when they're using logos. And this one is also an easy thing to use, but the big thing is that you don't want to come across as being either too detached and cold or boring, right? You don't want just, oh, all it is a bunch of facts and statistics and I don't care. And that's why having that balance of all three makes an effective argument, communication, whatever it is that you're trying to do, because you have established yourself as credible, you've appealed to the emotions of your audience, and you've also logically appealed. Okay, so not only do I care about it, but it makes sense logically that I'm gonna, agree with whatever your message is. So those are kind of the three most important appeals when we're beginning to understand communication, right? So we want to know now, how can we use these things and how can we recognize it in other things that we're reading and watching? So that'll kind of go into what your assignment is for this week. And this week, what you're going to do is you're going to find an advertisement. And I don't care what the advertisement's for. I don't care if it's a video, if it's a print ad, if it's you're listening to a podcast and they have a little ad for something, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but you're going to find an advertisement, and I want you to find examples of those three appeals. Okay, how do they establish themselves as credible? And a lot of companies can rely on themselves, right? They already have that built in. Nike can just say, we're Nike, we're credible, that we make great running shoes or whatever it is. Or sometimes they'll use celebrities or people that have that built-in credibility that someone's like, oh, well, if LeBron James drinks Sprite, then obviously that's what I want to do. So that's kind of what they're going to do with Ethos. And then where are they connecting emotionally? Where's that pathos? And then how logically are they connecting? Okay, so I do want you to make sure that you can find an ad where you can find those three things, and I'll explain it more in the instructions, but just and then you're going to explain that. So I want a copy of the ad. So whether that's you're embedding the video of the ad or you're uploading the picture of the print ad. Okay, so I want the copy of the ad, and then I want you to break those down. Okay, so at least 4 to 5 sentences for each one. Okay, in this ad, they establish ethos by da 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 da. In this ad, they show pathos by da 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 da. In this ad, they show logos. Okay, so you have to have one for each one: ethos, pathos, logos. Not a different ad. Okay, same ad, but find those three appeals in that one ad, and then explain to me where it is, and then if you think it's effective. Does that come off as credible? Is that actually connecting emotionally? Does that logically make sense? And that's what we're going to do this week. Okay, so I'll add a couple other videos that kind of go through that to give you examples from advertisements of where we see those things. But let me know if you have questions. Hopefully this is kind of a fun week, a fun assignment, right? You just get to find a cool ad. But it really sets the foundation for everything we're going to work on for the rest of the year. So it's important to understand those three appeals. Okay, so let me know if you guys have questions. Otherwise, have a great week.